Okay, another thing we want to be cognizant of when we have a dog that has a bite history or the issues that you have is if somebody gets up and moves around suddenly, that can be a trigger for a dog. A lot of times, basically, the dog's like, I didn't give you permission to get up. I have to bite you to correct you and let you know. So when I'm going to get up, Sophie's looking away from me. I want to make sure that she's aware of what I'm doing. I'm going to get up kind of slowly, and I'm going to move around very deliberately. I'm not going to move a lot of quick movements. Now I'm coming behind her, which kind of is a vulnerable position for a dog to be in. I wanted to kind of get down here to their level so I can kind of illustrate that your dogs don't really have any respect for people's authority or people's personal space. Rummer, come. Okay. So as I started to ask you in the other video, they come up and nudge you like this with their nose when they want attention. At least Rummer and Kahlua do. Sophie doesn't do that. However, I've seen you reach over and pet all three dogs, either because they came near you or because they nudged at you for attention. Now, when a dog nudges at us for attention, even though it's not done and we don't interpret it as a rude way, the dog is telling us what to do. Pay attention to me. Give me your attention. Well, that can create a petulance if every time the dog demands my attention, I give it to the dog. After a while, the dog's like, well, I tell the humans what to do, and they do it. That must mean I have more authority than the humans. Now, this started because when we started the session, I asked you what rules the dogs had, and I found out the dogs really didn't have any rules other than not peeing or pooping in the house. So when dogs have no rules because they go through life probing to find out where boundaries and limits are, if they probe enough and don't get corrected, after a while they're like, or they're corrected very consistently, well, then I must not have any rules. I must make me the rule maker, which makes me equal to humans. If I'm equal, then I can listen to the humans if I choose to, or I can ignore the humans if I choose to. So that opens the door. But then when we let the dogs tell us what to do when we pet them, that confuses the dog into thinking, I can tell the humans what to do, and the humans agree with me because every time I tell them what to do, they do it. So what I'm going to do right now is go over a technique that I've developed called petting with a purpose. So next time the dog nudges me, sit. Sit. So when the dog nudges at me, instead of complying, I give the dog a counter order, sit. I tell the dog to do something. It has to sit, come, or lie down to me. Now, if they're invading your personal space, it's going to be sit or lie down. So as soon as the dog sits, then I pet it for sitting. And this is how I get a dog to sit. 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 So once I kind of start out with my palm over in front of them, and I go over their head with the dog's anatomy, that puts them in a sit, and then I immediately lower it and say sit the second that I start petting them. Now, I pet a dog under its nose because when a dog is proud about what it's done, its nose is parallel to the ground or tilted upward. You've probably seen them with a special toy or something walking around the house with their nose in the air. Mm-hmm. So I want them to feel good about the things we want, which are what I call desired behaviors. Now, what's going to happen is after a couple days of doing this, and this means that nobody should pet them at all unless they do something for you first. Sit. Okay. They're going to do that. They're going to come and sit in front of you rather than coming up and nudging you. When they make that transition, they're basically saying, look, I'm sitting. Shouldn't you be paying attention to me? And the answer is yes, at least as much as we possibly can.
Okay.
So, down. So what I do is once the dog comes and sits or lays down in front of me, I pet him immediately and I repeat just the command word. A lot of people say good sit or things along those lines. The more adjectives we use, the more words we use, the more confusing it is for dogs. So as soon as the dog lays down, we reach over and we pet it and say sit, or say down, or whatever your command word is. Now, after a while, then that helps the dog start to see, I don't get to tell the human what to do. I can ask them to do something, and if I do something that the human wants, then sometimes I get rewarded for doing that. After that happens enough, then the dog starts to develop more of a respect for you as an authority figure. Then listening to you is no longer optional. Well, that comes from the rules, and we'll talk about that off camera. But it also tells the dog, I do not have the authority to tell the humans what to do. So petting with a purpose, what I would tell you and your wife is that if one of you comes in the room and sees the other one petting the dog, say the word paycheck. And if you hear paycheck, you just immediately raise your hands and stop petting the dog and tell the dog to sit. If it's already sitting, you ask it to lie down or come and sit over here. It has to change its state.
Yeah.
It's going to happen because you guys don't even realize how often you pet your dog. Your dog's going to come in, you're going to watch TV and just be petting for no reason. So we want to break a habit of that. Once you spend about a week doing it that way, then after that, then the dog's just like, well, that's the way it is. And you will ask the dog, if you use that hand motion, to sit and then start petting the dog for doing that while you're having a conversation with somebody else. And every time you do that, you engage in a little training session. Down. Every time you do. And you're not even thinking about it. So you're going to do this hundreds of thousands of times over the dog's life. If you get in the habit of petting with a purpose, it helps the dog respect you as more of an authority figure. So that's how we pet with a purpose.